Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. So one of my viewers asked me a couple questions about some wire that he recently acquired. It's something like what you see in the spool back there, as well as how I like to determine which wires are worth stripping and which ones are not worth stripping to maximize your profit. You will, for some wires, actually lose money if you take the coating off of them. So as you can see behind me, I have a number of wires you will commonly find in your house. You will find on job sites or rental projects as well as scrap day. So I've actually done an experiment on each, weighed them, measured, factored in the price of unstripped compared to stripped, as well as determined the profit I would make at the end. So before I begin, I do need to classify the different categories at a scrapyard when it comes to wire. The first thing that you have to look at is if there is a coating on the wire, they are classified as two different things. There is 60% copper recovery and 40% copper recovery. This, as you can see, there are three individual strands that have a coating around them, as well as an additional outer coating. Because there is more plastic to this and more coating, this is classified as less copper recovery. So this is 40% copper recovery. And this currently is going for $1.33 a pound Canadian. I just looked up the prices. So that is right now August 1st prices. If I was to remove this outer casing and was just left with these three strands that had their own individual coating, there is more copper recovery, less plastic to copper ratio. So these ones would be upgraded to 60% copper recovery. And 60% copper recovery right now is actually going for $2.13 a pound Canadian. So 80 cents more a pound. But as I said, some wire is not worth stripping, and I'm going to get into that after. The next category you have is number 2 copper wire. These are clean copper wire that you see, and scrapyards look at the thickness of the wire when we look at categories. Number 2 copper wire is thinner than 16 gauge. So 16 gauge is about the thickness of the lead of a pencil. It could be wire from your motors or compressor motors. And as I said, it is less than 16 gauge. It is currently going for $4.54 a pound Canadian. And when we look at gauges, one thing I do want to point out is the lower the number actually means the thicker the wire. So if I had 14 gauge wire, it is actually thicker than 16 gauge, and it is actually going to go into the next category, which is number 1 copper. So again, number 1 copper is clean copper that is 16 gauge or thicker. As well, it is free of heavy erosion or paint, which would also go into number 2 category, unfortunately. And that currently, number 1 copper is currently going for $4.82 a pound Canadian, which is 30 cents more than number 2. And the last category is bare bright copper. That is your shiny penny look. It is 16 gauge and thicker. And that currently is going for $5 a pound Canadian. So excellent prices for all of them. If you have copper, it's a great time to sell some to make some money. And here we go with the experiment. So as I said, I got this. This was the wire that my viewer asked about, or similar to that. What I do when I have wire that I don't know the gauge or the thickness of it or the price of it, I will actually take about 2 to 3 pounds of it. I will factor the price in as was at 40% recovery. I will then strip the outer coating off. I will weigh it to see if I've lost money. And what I've done, as I said, is taking a piece of this, because it's 60% copper recovery, I used for this experiment 2.05 pounds of it. At 40% recovery, I made $2.69 Canadian. After stripping it, it was left like something like this. This is obviously without the black casing. I was left with 1.048 pounds of it. At 60% copper recovery, I made $2.23 Canadian. So I actually lost 46 cents from taking that outer coating off. A lot of weight was in that coating, so obviously lowered the price and the weight. And because of that, I'm not even going to go one step further and remove the casing or the coating off of these individual copper wires. There is a thick wire. Even though the price of number 2 copper is higher, there is a lot of weight in that, so it is going to not be worth my time, not only profit, but time as well you have to factor in. So, as I said, I lost money stripping that, so the rest of this spool, I'm just going to throw right into my 40% recovery and take it as is and not waste my time on it. The next one I actually looked at is what we classify as BX wire. Very recognizable in your house or on scrap day. It has an outer metallic casing. Sometimes they are aluminum, sometimes they are stainless steel. If I was to bring it up to the camera, inside there is a clean piece of copper wire as well as 2 additional coated strands of wire. And the wire actually, as is, this BX wire is going for $1.45 a pound Canadian right now, which is a nice price. If I was to remove the outer casing, which I've done, this actually could be thrown in either aluminum or stainless steel. And the way that I check to see if this casing is aluminum or stainless steel is I will use an angle grinder. If I put my grinding disc up to it and touch it, if it sparks, it is stainless steel. Aluminum does not spark. So aluminum right now, as is clean, is going for about 50 cents a pound Canadian. If it sparked and it was stainless steel, it would be going for about 75 cents a pound Canadian. So there is a market for this as well, so you don't want to throw this out, and I am going to factor this into the price. So I, for this experiment, used a piece of BX wire as is. I used a pound, 1.25 pounds of it at $1.45 cents a pound. I got $1.81 for the piece of wire. Once I removed the outer coating, I realized that it was aluminum. So this was, I had 0.6 pounds of aluminum casing at 50 cents a pound. I got 30 cents for this. I got a $1.21 worth of number 1 clean wire, as well as the coating. Now I have 2 wires because there's only 1 coating on them. This is 60% copper recovery. It worked out to be $1.07 for the number, or for the 60% copper recovery. The grand total of that experiment was $2.58. So just removing the outer coating, I made about 70 cents from that. The next part of my experiment was to strip the entire thing. Here are my 2 really nice number 1 grade copper wires that came out of it. So I got from this 0.62 pounds of number 1 copper times $4.82. I got $2.99 for the copper wire, as well as the 30 cents from the aluminum casing, which brought me to $3.29 total, which gave me a profit of $1.48 for stripping it and taking the time. And some people will comment saying it's not worth the time, it took a little bit. It doesn't take that much time to unravel it. Sometimes this casing can be kind of annoying. Usually what I do is I will just unravel a little bit. Once I get it opened, it starts to unravel, and if I loosen it in a few places, I can take a pair of pliers, take 1 strand of the copper in there and pull it out. Once I take one of them out, there is more room in there, and the other 2 are easy to take out. But as I said, from a little bit of work, I made $1.50 almost with that, with BX wire. The next wire I looked at is, sometimes you'll see it with a orange coating. I actually have an older model. This is from a house that was put in, this wire was put in about the 80s. This is what we classify as 8-3 Romex or NMD90. This is for your stove or your dryer. And when we look at gauges of wire or thickness, the first number that you hear is actually the gauge of the wire. So if I have 8-3, it is 8 gauge. And as I said at the beginning of this video, anything that is 16 gauge and higher is going to be number 1 copper. So with this experiment, I had 2.05 pounds times, because it has an outer coating as well as an additional coating inside, it's going to be classified as 40% copper recovery. So factor that in. My price, my total was $2.73 for the wire as is. Once I removed the outer coating, what was inside is something, if you look at, there is one clean strand. I'm going to bring up to the camera this one here. There is one clean strand inside of that. There are 3 other coatings. So when I factored this in, I had a 1/4 pound of Bear Bright. So there was my, where is it? Wrong one, sorry. I had my coating of Bear Bright right here. So at $5 a pound, I got $1.25 for this. Plus, as I said, because I had 3 additional 60% copper recovery strands, I had 1.5 pounds of that, which gave me $3.20. And I made, on total of that, $4.45 Canadian. So from that, I made a profit of $1.72 just removing the outer coating. My last experiment was to strip the entire thing. I got a nice hunk of Bear Bright, but as well, I also, for this experiment, I could not classify it all as Bear Bright because there was some, as you can see, this would not be classified as Bear Bright. Even though it looks from the camera, it's hard to see the difference. But this has a lot of spotting. There is some little bit of tarnish, not much. But in order to be classified as Bear Bright, the entire thing needs to be clean of any type of corrosion or spotting or anything. So the rest of this would be my number 1 copper. So factoring in that, a 1/4 pound Bear Bright, plus I had 1.25 pounds of clean number 1 copper wire, times it by $4.82. I got a grand total of $6.03, which gave me, factoring in, $7.28 for all of my clean wire from that, which gave me an entire profit of $4.55 for the entire thing stripped. So definitely worth my time and while to strip it. I made almost $4.60 from stripping it. It is not a hard thing to do, like I said, and worth my while. Some people have also suggested taking the wire and melting it down and making it an ingot or in a crucible. And that is a future plan that I probably will do, especially if it is stuff like my number 2 copper. Definitely a way to maximize your profit, putting it into an ingot and upping it up to at least a number 1 than number 2. So that is definitely something that I look into the future of doing, and it's a suggestion that some people have made. So that is one thing. Another type of your wire that you're going to see is, because some of the times it does come in different types of strands. As you saw with this one, once I opened it up, there are 3 strands that you see here I think there are 6 wires that are wound together, okay, as well as this one. There are 6 wires that are wound together. Comparing them to this one, these are all individual strands. So you will find different types. And I did, for this experiment, also look at ones that were wired. These individual strands are still going to be classified as number 1 wire. They are 16 gauge, so they do fall under that number 1 wire, which is great. And as I said, those are classified into your dryers. They are classified into stoves. As I said, there is another example. Sometimes you will also see one strand that is solid copper with some that are individual strand. So as I said, they come in different types, but they are well worth your time to strip them and to get the clean copper out of them. Another experiment that I did was actually with this stuff. This is called 6 gauge. This type of material would be used for a hot tub hookup, so a separate panel that would, like I said, for hot tubs or something that you need a nice wattage or gauge for a separate panel. And I did the same factor for this. So as I said, this was called 6AWG or 6-3 copper. So I used for this experiment actually 3 pounds of it. And because it had the outer coating on it as well as the individual coatings at 40% recovery, I had $3.99 for the entire thing. My second part, I removed the outer casing, as you can see, and I had 0.45 pounds of number 1 copper, so the clean strand. I had as well 1.9 pounds of 60% copper recovery, and once I factored that in, I had $6.22 from stripping the entire thing, which gave me a profit of $2.23 a pound. Or sorry, not all stripped, but the outer coating, the 1 clean strip, so $2.23 a pound. After I stripped the entire thing, which you can see there, I had a grand total of $9.88 from clean number 1 copper, okay? And this was the waste that was left. This actually does not weigh that much, so that was kind of nice about it. I've never actually come across this type of wire. The neat thing about this stuff is once I opened it up, there was actually some type of like paper that went around it, but definitely was easy to strip. And I made from that, as I said, a profit of $5.89 from stripped to leaving as is. So definitely worth my while. So that was a great one. The last one I touched on was your common household electrical wire, Romex wire that goes to all of your outlets. And for this experiment, this stuff I get oodles of it out of the dumpsters at construction sites, little pieces like this, but they all add up. For this experiment, and this was classified as 14/2, so 14 gauge. It comes with 3 strands. So 2 strands that are coated, 1 clean one inside. Sometimes it will be bare bright, as you can see with that one, nice shiny. But for this experiment, I did actually, all of it was bare bright. As you can see, my nice pile there. The first part of it, as I said, I factored in, I had 2.5 pounds of it times $1.33 a pound because it was 40% copper recovery. Gave me $3.33 as was. The next part, removing the outer casing, I was left with 1 clean strand and 2 strands that were 60% copper recovery. So I had 0.5 pounds of bare bright at $5 plus 1.35 pounds at 60% recovery, which worked out to be $2.13 a pound. And that gave me a profit of $5.38 a pound. My last part of the project, stripping the entire wire, I was left with 0.5 pounds of bare bright from the first part and 1 pound from the 2 strands that I stripped afterwards, for a grand total of $7.50 for that, for a final profit of $4.17. So well worth my time to strip that. As I said, I made $4.17 in about 4 minutes. So a lot of this wire, as I said, worth your time, especially the thicker gauge that you find. Someone's gonna ask me about my typical wires that come out of appliances. This wire, as you can see inside, there are my 2 individual strands. There is an outer coating. This, again, going on that model would be 40% copper recovery. This is not worth my time to strip. I've got a heavy coating here, so this will just go into my 40% copper recovery as is. And I might even just take just this little piece off and put this into my number 2 pile, but the rest of this is going into my 40% recovery. And just for the last part, just want to quickly show you, I have a really nice strand, if it is worth your while to get a stripper or not. Really nice piece of wire here. So again, this would be classified as your 40 or 60% copper recovery as is. It's a nice thick wire, but look how easy this is once I set this up into my stripper. I am gonna put my safety glasses on just in case. I have a basic strip meister, drill powered, just gonna feed it through. And as you can see how easy and fast that is, if I just undo the knots on it. Feed it through. There is a small little spot, there we go. There you go. So that took me all but 1 minute. There's my wire. Look how nice and thick that is. How easy that was. And I already measured this. This was 0.6 pounds from this. Problem is it's all wired up together because I had to put it on the bench. But just upgraded it from $1.33 or $2.13 a pound to $4.85 a pound here. So I just made $2.50 in a matter of a minute and a half. So well worth my time to strip it. Excellent question that I had. Thank you for that question. But yes, what I do is I will take 2 to 3 pounds of it, factor the price and the weight with that, using a stripper if it's worth it or not. And like I said, hopefully that answered that question. Great question. Please keep them coming. Great time to be storing up your copper. Lots of wire out there. Great to be able to divert it from the landfill and make a profit. So please comment down below. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Tin Man out.